This video that I'm about to do is one, I don't know if it's difficult to do, but it is one that is going to deal with a very sensitive issue, the topic of racism, and racism in particular in Canada. I'm not concerned about where racism exists or what happens in another country. This is my country that I live in. I've lived here for 25 years, and I thought it was a blessing when I came here 25 years ago. And I would think that by this time I should be able to call it home. I am grateful for some of the experiences that I've had here, and I'm thankful for some of the opportunities that I have gained here. But in spite of that, when I think about some of the experiences I've had with racism, they are just painful. I spent a year in full depression because of some experiences I've had at my last job. And I think it's time that we talk about it. As soon as the topic of race comes up or racism, people get very uncomfortable. But maybe you need to get uncomfortable. Maybe you need to hear this. I love this country. And I was so happy when I came here. I thought, what a wonderful place to raise my children. And I heard about racism, and I just thought, just adjust yourself. People are complaining about racism because they don't want to take responsibility for their own lives. I used to think that until it happened to me. And we're not talking about just racism from an ignorant person on the street. We're talking about systematic racism. We're talking about living in a country that has so much wonderful benefits. But at the same time, there's an ugly, ugly elephant hiding in the room. And when we hear about racism, we point our finger across the border and we talk about America. Well, stop talking about America. Talk about Canada and what's happening here. I spent 1 year getting therapy after an experience on my job. An entire year. The abuse at this job was just astounding that even I couldn't believe that this was happening here. And because I have my family and I have my goals and my dreams, I took it. I went to work and I endured the worst disrespect from some of my colleagues, professional people that you would not expect to do these things, say some of the most racist things to me that I just, after 2 years of being out of this environment, I still can't believe. And the worst part of it, when I got home and I really allowed myself to face what I had endured for that particular year, I couldn't believe, and I decided that I'm going to do something about it, because for everybody who experienced this and just sit by and just, say, okay, just let it go, fear that you won't be able to pay your bills because you might lose your job, fear of being alienated, fear of being called a liar, you just walk away. And racism is like the new rape. So many of us women of color, and I can't speak for everyone, but I know black women in particular in my field, and we are almost invisible in our profession. It still behooves me to know that there's so many educated black women in this country in this particular field. And when you look around you, you see us, if we go to a conference or if we, at a particular place where a professional body is around, we are a few in numbers. We are always relegated to the servant role, even though we're professionals. It's got to stop. You can't look at me and tell me that of all the black teachers that graduate from Teachers College, you can only have a school with just one. How do you explain that? How do you explain that? The majority of the black teachers are supply teachers, and I'm sure it's not just black teachers, but also other people of color. Could you please explain that to me? Tell me, why is that so? Black teachers are not smart? They're not good teachers? Why? That is for another topic, but this one I'm talking about, I'm asking those who are in positions of power to deal with this. Because after I endured a situation where someone would come into my classroom and trash my classroom, that individual would come and say some of the most belittling things to me. And because I was a long-term teacher, I was not a contract teacher, a LTO, I took it because I had my family to take care of. I was afraid that if I said anything, I would lose my job. But I finally decided that I was going to do something about it. And I went to the persons who are in positions of power to do something about it. And when I explained and showed pictures and showed what I endured, they looked at me and they said, "This is classic racism." And after they were done investigating, I felt like a victim again. I never got redressed for the things. I never got a letter to say apologize about what I endured. I never heard one thing that made me want to be a teacher after it was over. And my question is, if I'm an adult and I go to school and I leave in tears on many days, and it didn't just happen as a teacher, this also happened to me when I was in teachers college and I was doing my practice teaching. I left in tears many days. I had my host teacher have me wipe the floor when a child threw up on the floor. I had her have me washing her chalkboard every Monday morning as I walk in, keeping me until 8 o'clock at night. I had these things happen to me and I took it because I said, you know what, there's nothing more important for me than to be in a position where I can influence students, where I can be a good role model for them, where I can encourage them. I wanted that so much, and every time I experienced abuse at the hands of those who I looked up to, who I respected in this field, because I think teachers really are underrated and they don't get the respect that they deserve. And there are some teachers that work so hard and love what they do, but then there are also some in positions of power who are there to just break the spirit of those they think are unworthy. I was made to feel like I was unworthy, that I did not belong there. As a student teacher, I was always made to feel like I was stupid. And after I worked hard, I graduated from university and I received an academic achievement award for my performance. And every student that I've ever dealt with, every parent that I've ever had to deal with me, have nothing but good or great things to say. I develop a relationship with my students that are far and above what I'm expected to do. Because when I teach, I don't just go into the classroom to do academics. I reach my students psychologically, on a psychological, emotional level. I get to know my students for who they are. I try to get to know them. Because if you don't know your student, you will not be able to teach them. You're not, there's so much more than just teaching the curriculum. It's understanding who these individuals are and know that they come to the classroom with history. They influenced me and I guided them. But I left that environment because of the way I was treated. And more than anything, we could say it was one or two or three individuals that made my life a living hell. But the thing is, it's how those who are in the position of power to fix it, how they handled it. So I'm saying, and that when I left my other jobs, I thought, okay, great, now I don't have to deal with those things anymore. It is a problem. Racism is a problem and we're suffering. Black women are suffering in this country. And we're afraid to say anything because if we say anything, we might lose our jobs. But I don't have to lose my job now. I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. I'm not afraid of losing my job because I walked away from something that I loved. And there was no one there to say what happened to you was wrong. Instead of doing that, I got the feeling that they just wanted to silence me. They just wanted me to go away, even though they acknowledged that my complaint was in. They never investigated it. They just asked me what I wanted to achieve, and I wanted it to be investigated. And when they heard what happened and it was valid, I didn't lie, and they knew I didn't lie, they decided not to go further with the investigation and instead offer me things that I did not ask for. And I went to my union. And my union, I sent my letter of complaint, and it was forwarded to that particular office where it needed to be looked at. And I never got a call from my union to ask how it was going. What do I say? What am I supposed to think? Because the things that were said to me, they were blatantly racist. And even when I made my complaint, it says, yes, this falls under the racism portfolio or banner or whatever you call it. And nothing was done. I was sick. I was depressed. The things that happened when I look at some of these pictures of how this person came in my classroom and trashed it, threw my cabinet out of my classroom, took my folders and my things and threw them on the floor, and my students didn't have a place to sit because the room was so dirty, was so filthy. Others in the school knew she was doing this to me. And I just tried to stay quiet. I complained. I went to those in positions of power to tell them what was happening to me, sometimes in tears. Some of them spoke to me in ways that was so disrespectful in front of my students. And all I would do was cry and stay quiet because I didn't want to lose my job. So the next time you're about to talk about equity and diversity and social justice, maybe you should think again. Because this is the face of a black teacher who lives in this country, who endured the worst kind of racism. And when I complained, the funny thing is the individuals who investigate these kind of claims are always persons of color. I'm not sure what that means. And it's almost as if they're there to try to, get you to forget about the whole thing. Oh, it's ugly. I'm very disappointed, people. And it has made me change my way of thinking. I miss every time I pass a school or I see the students, I miss them so much. I miss what I do. There's something in me that misses it. But I couldn't go back and work for be in that particular space that was not prepared to send a very strong message that this is not tolerated, or to at least write me a letter and apologize for what happened to me, because they knew it was true. They knew it was true. They took from me something that was very important to me, and I didn't just want to make money. I do it for free. I didn't want to just make money. I wanted to make a difference in the life of the students that I work for. It sounds like cliche, but it's not cliche. I wanted to be there to make a difference in these students' lives, and it was taken from me because of racism, because of individuals who felt that I didn't belong there, that I had no right to be there. And although I didn't have as much experience as some of these ladies, I could run circles around them. I was a great teacher. I was a great teacher. I know it. I was told that, and I saw the results of my work. But it gives me a great feeling to know that the time when I did have with those students, I made a difference in their lives, and they made a tremendous difference in mine. And that is what I keep with me. That's why, looking back and seeing my experience in teaching, I am not bitter. I'm hurt. And I would like to have a conversation where something is done. Our government does something. It is shameful when you have so many schools with so many, you know, children of color, and the teachers are not represented equally. It's a shame. And it's obvious. Please, don't let me leave this country feeling like it's something that people in the positions of power don't care about. Do something about it, please. If you have comments, you may make it at the end of this video. I'm not here to make people uncomfortable. I'm just talking about my experience. And I'm just saying what a lot of women of color are afraid to say. That in my profession, racism is a big problem. When we finish teachers college, most of the times we're LTOs or we're supply teachers. And when we do get contract positions, we're held to higher standards. Not that anything is wrong with that, because when you're a teacher, you should be held to high standards. But your scrutiny that we go under, and sometimes by our colleagues, are just astounding. Astounding. I still love the profession, and I still say thank God for all the wonderful teachers that are out there that are making a difference in the lives of these kids daily. Thank goodness. But it's time for some of the teachers from the old school who at one point were able to be the ones that dominated the educational field. It's time for you to go with your old rhetoric and your racist ideas and your disrespectful ways of treating other people as the other. It's time to go. It's time for you to go. And it's time for the government of Canada to see what is happening and do something about it. There's no reason for you to be in an area where there's a predominant immigration population and you have no black teachers in that school, or no persons of color, or if you do, you have one. There's no reason for a school to have 20 teachers and only one black teacher. Why? Why is that? Nobody notices this? Everywhere you go and you have all these children, they don't see themselves in their teachers. Now, I'm not saying that Canada doesn't have a large population of, Caucasian. But what about the black teachers that are here too? Why? Please stop. Please stop it. Do something about it. Because I'm still suffering the effects of what happened to you, because I dared to dream and I dared to do something that so many people want to do and so many people have had the opportunity of doing. And I think to myself, if I'm an adult and I cried so much and I was so unhappy and I was abused so much, what happens to kids who have to deal with these same individuals? Restore my faith. Do something about it, please. Thank you.